timer here? Good morning, everybody. How are we? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Okay. Here. I'm Nick. We're going to talk about AI and cybersecurity. I hope everybody had a good time with the keynote. I hope everybody got some coffee. I hope everybody's awake. We're going to do things a little differently probably. I do have slides, but I'm not going to just marry my slides. I'm just going to keep going with some of the stuff. Here's my intro. I'm Nick, and I'm going to talk to you about AI. Done. Okay. So we're going to start with some visualization, all right? And what I mean by that is you can close your eyes if you want, or not. There'll be little prompts up here. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and in each scenario there's going to be 2 options. Okay? Just work with me. Wherever you are in life, whatever you're doing, whatever you're studying, whatever your job is, just bring it in. Okay. Scenario 1. Your dream job at your dream company just got posted online. This is the thing that you would do if you had all the time in the world, if you had all the money in the world, you would just do this. So that's the scenario. Here are your options. Option 1. You can take your resume, update it, put it into a tool that's going to help you with your grammar and your punctuation and sounding professional and all of those things and give you a really, really good shot at this job. Option 2. I know myself better than anybody else. I know my writing better than anybody else. I don't need any tools to help me edit it. I'm going to be fine. Side note, any authors in the room, when you edit your own stuff, you miss 77% of your errors. Okay? Everybody who's written a white paper has been there. Okay, so that's 1. Scenario 2. You're cramming for your final exam for the winter semester students, because I'm also doing the same thing. You look up and realize, I've been doing this studying for 4 hours. I'm starving. So option 1, I can go to my app. I can go to my favorite pizza joint, hit my regular order. It already has a payment on there. They pop up little things, says it'll be there in 15 minutes. Okay? Option 2, I go to the website of the pizza joint somewhere down the road. The website is just a blurry picture of the menu. I have to call them because you can't order online. I have to have cash because they don't take credit cards. And they don't know when the person's going to get here because they don't have an app on their phone that tells them where the roads are, the shortest distance, or anything like that. As a matter of fact, every mile the guy has to stop his scooter and pull up one of those giant maps that your parents had and refold it and try to get it back down in order to get you to your food. Scenario 3. Your twin boys just went to bed on Christmas Eve. They are so tired of sharing the same bed that they don't want the new cool toy. They don't want the new cool console. They don't want the new cool video game. They just want separate beds. You have about 5 hours between when they went to sleep and when they get up and go, it's Christmas. Option 1, you can go into the garage where the twin race car themed beds are, one blue for Billy, one red for Tommy because that's their favorite colors. You can get the Cobalt tool set that your wife got you last Christmas, and you can have those suckers together in 45 minutes. Option 2, you can grab the bucket of screwdrivers that your father-in-law brings over every time he thinks that you have a project to work on together. Okay? So those have nothing to do with cybersecurity. But in each of those scenarios, you have an automated tool that can help you get to your results faster than if you don't use it. And that's the whole point. Like when I leave here today and when you leave here today, I want you to just know this thing, but computers aren't going to replace all of us. But people who use AI are going to replace people who don't. So let's talk about AI for a second. I want to make a distinction real quick about the 2 types of AI we're going to discuss today. One is predictive, one is generative. You hear Gen AI all the time. Also, let me sidebar real quick. You've probably seen a lot of marketing commercials and a lot of things that say, we use AI and ML for da-da-da. Okay. Machine learning is a subset of AI. That would be like me saying, I use my vision and my right eye. I don't need to say both those things. Okay? So predictive AI is going to take a ton of data, and it's going to think like a human, and it's going to come up with what it predicts as the results, the suggestions, the recommendations, what it thinks that you need to do with that data. Generative AI is going to take that same data and it's going to build content that's similar to what you fed it. So think of it this way. I take 40 pictures of my doofus Aussie Shepherd dog who I love to tears, and I put it in predictive AI, and it goes, hey, those are 40 pictures of an Australian Shepherd. I put 40 pictures into generative AI, and I go, give me a picture of an Aussie Shepherd. And based on the nose and the ears and the whiskers and everything else, and the big sad eyes because he wants to go for a walk, like it'll give me a picture of something like Gunner, but not exactly Gunner. Okay. All right, pop quiz. How many people in here have Netflix? Okay. Mothman guy. What's your favorite ever, past, present, future Netflix show? Sandman. That's good. Sandman, Neil Gaiman. Sandman fans? Sandman? Yeah. Got a couple. I knew you were. I'm a Daredevil guy. I'm a big Marvel guy. Okay. That was, yeah, that's fine. I'll take that. I didn't direct this, so I'll take it. It took Netflix, and we'll show this two ways. So this view and then another one. It took Netflix 10 years to get to 100 million subscribers. Sounds right? They changed the model. It used to be the little red box thing, and then they moved to streaming, and technology kind of caught up. Okay? So 10 years for Netflix. ChatGPT in 2022 did 100 million subscribers in 42 days. Who in here has used it? More hands than Netflix. Isn't that wild? Crazy. 42 days. Why? Well, it's because it's democratized. What does that mean? It means I don't have to be a data scientist in order for this thing to get me results. I can just say, hey, I'm working on my term paper on media portrayal of cops. Give me, here's a couple articles, and we feed that into you, and then just generate something for me. How does the media depict cops? Right? I don't need a formula. I don't need code. I don't need anything like that. I just have to ask it a question. And so we have everybody from your middle schoolers on up. I don't know about elementary school kids. I don't have one. So middle schoolers on up who are just going to ask it a question. I got a great introduction to ChatGPT because one of the things that we found is that and students can all correct me if I'm wrong on this because I'm here to learn too. I have not found a country, a state, a county, or even a university that has a universal policy on whether the students can use ChatGPT or not. What I've had is teacher by teacher, they have their opinions. So my department head, because I'm a criminology student, my department head was talking to us about, what do you do when your students use ChatGPT? And his story was, well, sometimes it's obvious and you have to be like, hey, I said, you can't use that in this class. And he said the first time I had to do that was one of my students who used the ChatGPT to generate their final paper in their ethics class. Yeah, okay. Was it that obvious? He goes, it was that obvious. So, yeah. So again, AI is not going to replace humans, but humans who use AI are going to replace humans who don't. Now, there is still a benefit to investing in the AI skills, not just knowing how to do a simple prompt. What do I mean by that? Well, let me show you some market numbers. If you understand AI and you invest in AI skills, which you should, we all should, this is the difference in pay between the people who use it and people who don't use it. Okay? Lawyers, because obviously it's better for litigation support, they understand intellectual property, they understand copyright law, any of those things that they have to actually go prosecute or defend. Your IT departments, it's going to lead to efficiency, it's going to lead to automation. We've got some folks in here who can talk to you about that on the security side, also on the just data center deployment and things like that, R&D, sales and marketing, and then finance. And I'll talk to you about a couple of examples, and then we'll get into the security side of everything. Spoilers, I may not take the whole 50 minutes. So, where are we seeing AI used? We're seeing it in customer support everywhere. Anybody know who that is? I know it's a little blurry, I apologize. That's my friend Julie. Julie's not real. Julie's the Amtrak chatbot. They've all got one now, right? So I'm on the Amtrak all the time. My job takes me from DC to New York, so I'm on the Amtrak all the time. Everybody's got chatbots. Now the big debate, and this is the one thing that shoots my entire theme down, is Microsoft and Salesforce are introducing these things called agents. Chatbots are there to help an actual human being help support you. Agents are just pre-programmed. There's no human involved. They're just trying to get you to the answers, which sounds like they're replacing people, which maybe in some places they are. And there are some jobs that that's going to happen because it's all about, for them, efficiency and closing cases. We've seen it in product recalls. This one was really interesting. My mom-in-law, I'm going to keep mentioning her because she lives with this. It's not a weird thing. Like, we have an attachment to the house, so she just is our neighbor. So she said, oh, don't buy the ground chicken from supermarket number one. Where did that come from? She said, they called me. The supermarket called me to say that there was a recall on this ground chicken. How did they know that? They took her rewards number with her contact information and her purchase history and said, oh, you bought this thing last Wednesday, you should probably not eat it. That's pretty cool. Like, interesting. Little 1984, little George Orwell, but okay, at least I get my mom-in-law from getting sick. Prescription refills, that's just for you. So, it's been 60 days, and according to our records, you have 60 days worth of your prescription. We're going to notify you. We're going to notify the pharmacy. Allegedly, they're going to be open, and you'll be able to pick up your prescription. Maybe not. Marketing, and I'll give you this example because I think this is really, really interesting. We've had the ability for a while with marketing and with Wi-Fi deployments to look at, in a retail environment, where are... You got a question? Yeah. 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 So the question for the recording is, what does AI get you that the simple Python script wouldn't get you in these? And all it is, it's just the quantity of data. It's how quickly can you get through all of it, right? And we'll see that because we're going to use that example in suspicious. So think of it this way. We'll get to you guys. We'll get to that when we start talking about security logs, right? It's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. So in marketing, yeah. So think about like where we are today. Like if the con wanted to work with the Civic Center and say, give me the numbers of, if these were, how many phones connected to which badge, which Wi-Fi sensors in which rooms. So we knew how many people came to each of the sessions. So we can do that in retail already. And the way that works is typically, like, let's say we're a big department store and we've got a bunch of different departments and we just ran a big, huge marketing campaign. We're Joseph A. Bank, right? Buy one suit, get 112 suits for free or whatever their deals are. They're really weird. And I've run that thing for suits, and then everybody's buying shoes. Clearly, my marketing campaign's not working. That deal's not good, right? So we can do that with AI, where it goes and combs through that data over time, and then goes back to the marketing and gives them the research number. So a lot of what these examples are, it's just an efficiency improvement over what otherwise would be a manual process. Okay. So let's get into what some of the benefits are to attackers, because that's why everybody's in this room. Attackers and defenders. So the first is, if you can automate any of the mundane tasks, automate anything that you potentially see as one of the steps in the process, and you can remove the human element, you can do things like improve your software development. We'll talk about bug fix and automatic auto fixes in a little bit. If I don't have to train people on data science, and I can instead teach them simple prompts to get them to feed the bot and get our results faster, then obviously I don't need people who have got years and years and years of experience. It expands my recruitment pool. It also, because all they have to know is, here's the set number of prompts, put these in at certain times a day, it speeds up their time to being effective, the onboarding process, right? I don't need them to learn every single thing about every single thing. I just need them to understand, these are simple prompts. When you get the results, do this. We see this a lot in we see it in attack campaigns too, but also we see it on the security side. We'll see that here in a second also. And then just enormous amounts of data to just overwhelm the manual processes that defenders have to use. We saw it with Matt's presentation earlier. So the learning language and how to craft customized and personalized phishing attacks, or not just phishing, but any of the ishing, and we'll talk about those here in a second too. So what we typically see on the attack side is a 3-step process, which is I need to identify who I'm going to go after. Okay, so I'm going after the CFO of this particular credit union because the banks are too big and they have too good security, but this credit union down here, their security is not as good, so let's look at that as a target. Okay, so now I know this guy, I know where he lives. Now I'm going to go, how does he communicate? So he's on which social media platforms? What is he posting on those platforms? Right? Jokingly, what's his favorite sports team? What's his kid's name? What's his dog name? Any of those things that we can learn. And then I'm going to take that information, who am I going after? How do they communicate? And then I'm going to craft an attack to make it as customizable as possible for that person, as much believable as possible. My son Tommy also goes to Taekwondo, right? So any of those things. Scams, so we see a lot of, also the proliferation of those attacks. So I can say, I don't just need one well-crafted email. Let me run it through AI. And also, hey, use Corpo Speak so it makes it sound like I'm somebody who would be in the country club with you, no offense. And then give me 20 versions of that so I can send them out over time on a schedule. We're seeing a lot of scams lately. Do you guys have toll roads out here? Couple? Anybody got a text message on their phone? You ran through this toll. You need to click this link and pay $50? Yeah, okay. Ohio all the time, Pennsylvania all the time, all the places. In Ohio, the turnaround to the court date is like 5 days. They're not messing around. It's a money-making machine, the Ohio Turnpike. So the other one that's going around a lot now is fake voice. Oh, Grandma, I was just in a car crash. I need $250 to pay for whatever else. So we see that a lot, especially over in Europe. That's a real popular one. That's the one that's pictured there. And then extortion. So Jennifer DiStefano is an easy example. If you guys have ever heard her name, that was a voice scam also. She got a phone call. We have your daughter. They put her on the phone, and it was her daughter, and she was like, oh my God, Mom, they have me, all these bad things are happening. Her daughter was 3 doors down in her room playing Fortnite, but the cloning of the voice was so effective that she almost paid the ransom. There's a couple better stories coming up. All right. The other voice cloning one, this is MGM. I can talk about them now. Was called the help desk, and they basically forced an MFA reset by making it sound like they were a C-level person. The very fast spread of dissemination. So this happened at the beginning of Russia invasion of Ukraine. Was Vladimir Zelensky put out a video that said, when the Russians come, just surrender, drop your guns. Okay, so his head's not really on his body, but if you're looking at that on your phone, like that's probably pretty hard to see, right? So that was another one that came out that was pretty high profile. One of my favorites was when you put it all together and you do it right, and if you guys haven't watched this rap video, I'll play it at the end. In Japan, there's a guy working, and he got an email from the CFO of his company, financial institute, and immediate transfer of funds absolutely has to happen right now. And he's like, that sounds like a phishing scam. You guys know this one? You guys you know how this ends? So he calls, and he gets on a call, and there's 16 of his coworkers. And they're all like, nah, man, this is legit. Like, just definitely go wire $200 million local money, so closer to 35 million in American money. All 16 people were AI generated. They literally took voice recordings of his coworkers, and then, yeah, so a couple, the Know Before guys, go see the Know Before guys after this. Like, they know about this. So they won't disclose like the name of the company or the individual, but that was pretty wild. So when your CFO calls you and he says, I need $1 trillion, yes, definitely probably not legit. So we work with a company called Social Engineer. Social Engineer does a state of phishing report. The 2023 version is out. We're in an election year. I don't know how many text messages a day you get for fundraising. I get 75 or something like that. So this is 2020, and I did that because that was the last election year. So this is the topics of all of the different scams that have come out. So this is Biden and Trump was a big thing in 2020. Now, of course, I'm sure the data is exactly reflective of that if it's not higher. So fundraising, also get out and register to vote, so you get a lot of those fakes. And then the celebrity stuff that nobody needs to see, right? Endorsements. Is that one up there? Yeah, endorsements, yeah. Like Taylor Swift endorsing Donald Trump, or also naked Taylor Swift. Like, if people are going to click on it, right? We see some other questionable stuff. If you want to visit us over at the Innocent Lives Foundation table later on that we'll talk about as well. So here's a couple different ways that AI is being used to generate. Again, so one of the things that we see with ILF, and this was really wild because I was watching VentureBeat, and this is a guy who does algorithms for dating apps. And he's like, AI is the thing that is going to try to make you sound like whoever the target is going to click on. And one of the examples that he used, out of the blue, this is a business ventured conversation, and he's like, we see it with child sexual abuse material where it's, I find my target, I have identified them, I communicate with them and said, oh, I also like puppies and unicorns. Now, let me put that through AI and make me sound like an 11-year-old. That's gross. But it's one of the things that people are using. So again, phishing attacks, a lot of voice scams, social text, SMS, social engineering. And then AI is doing some really interesting things around malware. So for a long time, we've had malware that identifies which browser you're using and changes the payload based on that. This is now, some of the malware that we're seeing today is doing things like based on your geolocation, your voice recognition, your facial recognition, can then decide which payload or which type of attack to send you. It's pretty wild. Okay, enough about the bad guys. Talk about the good guys for a little bit. So here's some areas that we're seeing AI deployed. We're definitely seeing it in vulnerability assessments, where it can, again, efficiency is the key here. Gather as much information as possible about what systems you're running and what vulnerabilities might exist on those. Give you that report. We're seeing it in preparation and planning for organizations. So I think everybody has realized, like, you're not going to prevent all of your users from using all of AI-based applications. Not even just chat or picture generation and Pictory and some of those other things. So you're going to have a plan on how we deploy that. You're going to have be prepared for that. You're going to have to train your users on that from a responsibility perspective, your students. You want to scan for what current AI apps are in the environment and what people are using them for, and also what data are they putting into them. Because that, we go back to the lawyers, right? The last thing that you want is something like, oh, let me put my source code into a public chatbot. Now it's out there. Samsung, right? You also want to pressure test your existing AI infrastructure. You're going to get bursts in traffic because that's how business works. And so you don't want to overload those systems if you're reliant on them to do anything, including reporting, generating content, testing your code, etc. We see AI enhanced threat intel. Cisco bought Splunk. You want to go back and look at 30 years of raw data. You can now do that where the human process for that would have taken forever. And then Google has a safe AI framework, which provides guide rails. So when we usually talk about AI, what we're talking about three things is like, what data are you feeding it? What is your prompt? And then what are the guide rails, right? So what data are you feeding it is a wild thing, because that's where you can get really, really biased really, really quick, right? We usually have a time, I'm French, Shane works up front. Like, we usually have a timer for like, how quickly are the results absolutely racist? Based on you fed it from Reddit or the internet. That's probably not the thing that you want to teach your AI. So here's a couple different things, a couple different tools that some people have deployed. So if you are familiar with OpenDNS, this is a screenshot out of OpenDNS. You can block traffic to domains based on things like malware, crypto mining, command and control, that kind of stuff. What they've done is they've added a category for chatbots, right? And this is maybe not a security conversation, unless you're worried about outbound data, intellectual property, that type of stuff. But what it could be is just a compliance or user training thing. Like, let's block these, or let's only allow, we only want people to use Copilot. We only want people to use Bard, or Gemini. Sorry, it's an old slide. Where we can just like put some restrictions in place so that we're only letting them use the tools that we sanction. You can also do this for things like online collaboration tools. So if you're paying for Microsoft and you've got OneDrive, like, why are 6 people still using Dropbox? Let's block that. Okay. You can improve your XDR. So this is all fed with data from all of your different integrations that you have. So you're going to have somebody in your organization whose job it is to open resume.pdf every day because you're hiring, right? So knowing that something came in named resume.pdf and it was malicious, it's okay information. But if I can then start feeding in integrations from different tools that we have inside of the environment to say, okay, it does say resume.pdf. It came from this .ru domain. It was titled this. It was this file type. We've seen it this many times before. And also, once that user clicked on it, it went to these other 50 users, right? So that's actionable intelligence that I can then say, all right, now I know what my cleanup looks like. I know how many places I have to go. I know how many users I have to educate. I know how many boxes I have to unplug. So we see that also. So this is what we talked about a little bit earlier for code scanning and autofix. This is a GitHub thing where what we can do is go in, we write a new set of code, we do a new revision, we do a new push, we do a new update. We go scan that code, look and see if there's anything incorrect in there. We could probably should have a pointer. Prompt it for what we think the fix would be, the suggested fix you can see here in the middle. And then with auto fix, you can have it selected to just go ahead and automatically push that fix out. Pretty cool. I would probably not just automatically fix stuff, but I'm a little skeptical when it comes to some of my coders. Here's what we're talking about with efficiency. So this is from FR Secure. And what this is log data just from business application logs. Now, they actually have data. If you go to their site, they have it on network security and web application filters and everything else. So the color coding here is we're not even logging 50% of the traffic for our business applications. Why? Because my analysts are overwhelmed, and if they have that much log data, they never get to all of it, right? Or they never get to the things we don't, or maybe they're tier 1 and they just don't know. They're looking for 4 things, and then it's the 5th thing that's the important thing. The time that we retain this data, again, under 7 days, 30 days, and then maybe it's because of compliance that a lot of stuff is kept for years. If I could turn on all that logging because I can feed it to my AI tool that can scan it more efficiently and faster than a human being can I get that data to my tier 2, tier 3 analysts faster? Or can I get to that data to them at all, right? So a more comprehensive view of what's going on inside of your network, inside of your servers and applications. Okay. So here's a fun tool. This is the AI assistant. This is the Cisco thing. We see AI a lot in terms of augmentation and in terms of assisting. We don't see it in terms of being an authority. So what the assistant does in this case is, if I make this policy change in my firewall, what users, what groups, what applications are impacted by that rule change? Okay? Which is better than the monolithic approach that we've had for firewalls for 100 years, right? Day 1, we've got 20 access control policy entries. Day 30, we have 4,500 access control policy entries. I can't get to all of them. I don't understand where that rule is firing off. I told this guy, I put this rule in to block Shane from getting to Copilot. How come he's still getting to Copilot? Because there's a different rule that triggers off of either maybe his IP address, maybe his device, maybe he's included in a different user group that's got an allow rule before that. The better step of this is you can actually retire rules. So who's a firewall? Anybody firewall rule person? Nobody? A couple people? 2-ish? I got a half a hand. Okay. So the thing that happens when you run firewalls in an environment is you'll have your change control window. A project manager will come to you with a change request form, and they will say, hey, I'm running this project. I need this rule put in to allow this IP address to this protocol to this direction, right? And so metaphorically, you're taking a brick out of your firewall, right? I'm allowing that traffic to go either in or out. Never in the history of mankind has a project manager come back and said, that project's over, you can just go ahead and put that brick back in the firewall. Take that allow rule back out. Never happened. So what this assistant allows you to do is to say, here's my rules. If I put this rule in place, what happens? So in red is, these are fully shadowed rules, like they've never fired off. There's redundant rules, which means I have an allow and a deny somewhere else, or I have legit rules. So it allows me to go in and say, with those redundant rules, I should probably take those allow rules back out. Because I've got a rule that says allow, a rule that says deny, right? And then if I block the traffic and the project is still going on, the project manager can come up and take it up. I mean, he or she won't, but this has never been a thing. It's just add rules until your firewall is just 2 bricks and a piece of string. Okay, so troubleshooting. So if I'm doing an upgrade and it doesn't work, the upgrade fails for whatever reason, like I can say, why did it fail? So in this case, this is the vulnerability database is the reason that you have to update that before you can update the rest of the source code. So this is one of the other things. Here's the field notice, the documentation that goes with it. And also, did this help me? So I have the ability to like or unlike so that the next person who runs into this same thing, this response, this result comes up faster. So that's another cool thing. The other thing is we can do this with our customer support team, right? Oh, okay, my customer's calling in. They're trying to upgrade from, name the product, right? So I can go to the left and be like, here's my question. The questions then become basically a frequently asked question repository. So the prompts are already there. Like these are the things we get asked the most. So once I have that, then it gives me the documentation. I don't have to go comb through the internet. I don't know how well your vendors update documentation. And also, nothing ever gets retired from documentation on the internet, right? So chances are good if I'm putting in, vendor X firewall, and I go, I need to know how to update this thing. What it'll tell me is, oh, this is how you update a version from 2016, right? That doesn't help me. That's not the version that I'm on. So what it'll do is it'll just scrape the internet for documentation. Again, there's a thumbs up, thumbs down. So it can build that frequently asked question thing for me, which then allows me to do 2 things. Number 1, it gets my customer support people to find that answer faster. Number 2, it tells me a lot of my customers are having a problem with this one thing in this one product. We should probably fix that code, right? Okay. Couple more. Home stretch. Okay. The other thing that you want to do is all the mundane stuff that takes your time, you want to make sure that you can automate that as much as possible. Do I have a little red box? I do. Okay. So in this case, something like, I don't want to run a backup ad hoc, right? I want to make sure I have a regularly scheduled backup. Also, probably don't want to have it on the network, right? I think 31% of companies actually have off-site for their backups, really ridiculously low number. But let me create a recurring backup schedule so that if something happens, hurricane, bad guys, exploit, ransomware, whatever, I know that I have that data somewhere safe. So I can just set a scheduler, same like we were talking about Python script earlier, right? To just have AI do this. It's just as simple as going in and actually just clicking through a couple of steps instead of having to actually know how to write that script. All right, so there's another interesting one, which is I don't have to hack the system if I can hack the person, right? And user is a 4-letter word, as we like to say in security, so it's pretty easy to get people to fall for stuff. So this is looking at identity intelligence as give me an alarm if certain things happen, right? So geolocation, a lot of technologies have had this already. I'm not Doctor Who if I log in from Charleston, West Virginia right now, and then I log in from Singapore 10 minutes from now. That's interesting. How did I do that? So not just location, but then what type of device are they on? What applications are they using? And then in this example, the red box here is probably a little hard to see, is we've dumbed down the type of authentication that they need for their MFA. We've simplified it. Why would we do that, right? If they have Face ID or something like that, and then we're just dumbing it down to SMS, that's probably not something that you would normally do. Okay. So last thing, so the other analogy that I like to use for this is, how many folks in here know how to drive a stick shift? I know, but the pride, those hands went up the fastest. So you can drive a manual transmission, but again, it's another set of skills that you have to learn, and it's somewhere that you have to put part of your brain power while you're driving. What gear am I in? How high am I revving? All that other stuff. Where a lot of other folks who just have automatic transmission don't have to do that. They can be texting and putting on their mascara and all the things that they're not supposed to do behind the wheel, but right, they're not devoting any brain power to it. So again, it's just a tool. It's all AI is doing is accelerating your ability to get to the results that you want, whether you're a bad guy, whether you're a defender, whether you're blue team, whether you're red team, whether you're an idiot. So yeah, so bottom line is, as I said before, AI is not going to replace humans in most cases. It will replace some jobs. But people who use AI are going to be better equipped to get the job done than people who don't use AI. If anybody is a student and wants to go into depth in some of this stuff, there's a couple of different research paper topics that we were exploring. Me and a couple of other friends of mine. We did some stuff on real estate and deed fraud. We did vehicle title fraud, scams following a weather event, because we have some friends down in Florida that'd be interesting. MFA fatigue. How many times a day are you getting this? Here's your 6-digit code. And then holiday stuff. Like what's coming. I could probably get my wife with, there's a new Hallmark movie. Click this link. So that's it. This is my contact information. I'll be at the Innocent Lives Foundation table right across the hallway here in a second.